Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 235 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, and a lot of changes coming to the show, the format, everything else that we're doing here in 2023, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm one of your hosts, Logan.
And I am his video game accountability partner, Micah.
Whoa. Hold up. Video game accountability partner. What is that?
Yeah, man, just gotta keep you in check when you get those crazy, sometimes when you start talking about Marvel Snap too much, gotta put you in check.
Okay.
Like, whoa. Sometimes when you've been playing, remember a long time ago you were playing Final Fantasy and just couldn't stop?
Yeah.
I was around at that. I would have checked you like, Logan, take a break. I gotta be your accountability partner. Make sure you're not going on any wild, like you're not playing every Persona now that Persona 3 and 4 are out.
Hold up. No. I'm going to stop you there. I know why you're bringing this up. I forget a lot of things. I'm remembering now why you're saying that. We don't need to tell the dear listeners about how I almost bought Forspoken the day before Dead Space came out because I was curious about how bad this game's dialogue was. But it's already out of the bag.
Sometimes, Logan, you make some quick decisions, and sometimes I'm like, okay, too late.
That's putting it very mildly. Let's be honest. I make some very questionable decisions here. Dear listeners, I texted Micah. I was like, man, this Forspoken game looks really stupid, but the dialogue, I'm curious about buying it just to see how bad it is. You're like, dude, Dead Space comes out tomorrow. What are you doing? I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. I'll just buy Hogwarts Legacy for Xbox instead.
There you go.
That way, when my wife is playing on my PlayStation, I can enjoy the game as well and actually play it instead of just sitting there.
And is she going to hop into Hogwarts Legacy before you do?
Oh, yeah. Well, so here's the thing. We bought the deluxe edition. Like, this was back in August, right when they announced all the different editions and revealed them all. I was like, okay, I love you, wifey. You are big Hogwarts fan, big Harry Potter fan. Let me get you the deluxe edition. You get it 3 days early, you get all this extra stuff. And she was like, all right, I'm not going to stop you. I was like, perfect. And then it dawned on me, this is on PS5. I play on the PS5. How are we going to work this out? Because there's games coming out around that time that I'm going to be playing still. So yeah, she's going to get the deluxe edition. I got it on Xbox as well. So we're probably going to play around the same time, provided the store that we pre-ordered the game from gets the games in the deluxe edition early enough, like they should. And then if they don't, then my wife's going to take over my Xbox and play it there. The main thing is I'm just trying to get her taken care of is really what it is. No matter what, she's playing this game 3 days early.
I heard y'all breaking down all things Hogwarts Legacy on the inaugural episode of TRG Discuss, which was fantastic. And maybe we can go into some of the changes in TRG. But excellent first episode there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And really, since you brought that up, let me kind of get into some of the changes here, because if you're watching the show on YouTube, you probably noticed content's been kind of sparse on the YouTube channel. You got both episodes, which is great, but you're probably wondering, like, where's your other videos? I'm talking about JRPGs. Sometimes you talk about IGN lists, blah, blah, blah. I kind of took January off to just kind of reassess some things, especially given the crazy events of winter break. You guys can go listen to the last episode to get caught up on that. I was looking at some of the content that we're doing for TRG, trying to assess some things, trying to see, like, okay, what can we do? How can we improve things? What can we do to Patreon? Make that better for the people that support us over there. And come up with a couple different changes. One of them being TRG Discuss. Normally TRG on Patreon, at the $5 tier, you would get what's called patch notes, which would be our behind the scenes monthly look at kind of our analytics, past episodes that we did that month, and get a look at what we're doing forward. Maybe a little bit of a grab bag topic here and there. I finally reached a point as I was looking at the episodes and as I was making the show, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like doing this anymore. And this isn't really something I would listen to. And I'm like, if I don't feel like doing it, and if I wouldn't listen to it, why would I put it out? So then I decided, you know what? Let me copy Sacred Symbols a little bit. Apparently conversational podcast things are making a comeback here. And let's just do a conversational thing. Let's give us some extra like content to the patrons at the $5 tier and cover stuff that we might normally, or not might normally, but we might not get to on the show proper. And so that's where TRG Discuss came along. This is going to be a show for $5 and up patrons. It's exclusive to our Patreon, where every month I'm going to bring a random guest on and we're going to talk about some random topic. Sometimes it'll pertain to games, sometimes it won't. February's episode, I've already got it lined up. Aaron White's coming on from Feel and Film Podcast. We're going to talk about movies. Maybe talk about some of the DCU news that came out recently with Scott Gunn. I think it's Scott Gunn. Going over what they're doing, what their plans are, and go over that, and just talk about movies. Why are they awesome? Why does Aaron enjoy them? And get into that.
Quick shout out to Aaron White, Mr. Fancy Pants. He just got back from the Sundance Film Festival. I saw, which pretty darn cool. That's I know. I don't know if that's his first time going, but shout out to Aaron. He takes his craft seriously when it comes to being critical of films and analyzing them from that level. And shout out to Aaron White for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing that I want to get into, because I've obviously never been to Sundance. So curious to what that's about, what that whole experience is about. And so we're going to get him on and talk about that. And again, that is just on TRG Discuss. That is a $5 a reward for $5 and up patrons over on patreon.com. And that's one of the changes I want to make. Let's do something fun, something low stress, something kind of laid back. And that's what we did. The first one we did, I brought my wife on. We talked about the drama surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, all the calls for boycott for that game online by the terminally online folks that I coined over there. And we talked about the stuff surrounding J.K. Rowling, the stuff that we're looking forward to in the game and stuff like that. And so I was like, this is something I'm proud of. I enjoy doing it. I think this is going to get some longevity, and it seems like we're getting a pretty good response from patrons, which is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then going on from that, I was like, man, what else can we do to bring more value to the patrons? And I was looking at the show, right? And I was like, man, I love TRG. Obviously, we've been doing it for over 8 years. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing it. But I'm like, man, we want to incorporate the news into the show so much that by the time that we try to do it, we're like 2 months removed or a month removed from certain topics we wanted to cover. And it's like, man, I want to get into these things because it's timely. Let's give our thoughts on it. Let's reform the way that we interact with games, right? And so this show from this point forward is going to change in regards to format. You're still going to get your housekeeping. You're still going to get your what we're playing. But now, instead of doing a topic, we're going to round up the news, give our thoughts on it, recap it, maybe incorporate some Patreon subscriber write-ins as well, which we've done for this episode, and then transition into Patreon write-ins, just inquiries, questions, comments, concerns that we'll weave into the show, and then round out the show like we normally do with our recos and things of that nature. So that allows us to cover the news, that allows us to give our thoughts on different things going on in the gaming world, and then as an added bonus to $1 and up patrons, when we do spoiler casts or maybe do a special topic or whatever it may be, we'll record that as a separate episode of like TRG bonus plus whatever we decide to call it. And that'll go out to patrons 1 week early. And then after that week is up, it'll go live for public feeds. So you'll get that in your Spotify, YouTube, whatever it is you use to subscribe to TRG. But that's just another added perk. If you support us on Patreon at the $1 tier, you get all of our episodes early and uncut, and you get the bonus episodes 1 week early. If you subscribe at the $5 tier and above, you get everything before that, as well as TRG Discuss every month. And if TRG Discuss gets more popular, I'm open to considering doing 2 episodes of that a month. But I don't want to burn myself out because, again, we didn't stop there. I love Marvel Snap so much that I can't shut up about it. And so instead of just taking over this podcast with it, and instead of Nate of the Backlog Breakdown taking over his podcast with it, we're joining forces to start a new show under the TRG umbrella, TRG Cross Backlog Breakdown. And we're starting Snap Chatter, which is our weekly, hopefully weekly, Marvel Snap podcast that will air its first episode the week after this episode releases on public feed. So you can be looking forward to that. There will be a separate podcast feed, so you will have to subscribe to that separately. It won't come out with the feed that these episodes release on. But yeah, we're going to talk about Marvel Snap, the meta, good, the bad, our favorite cards, whether or not leaders should just be taken out of the game at this point because they totally nerfed them and made them useless. But we're going to talk about some of those things and some of Nate's spicy hot takes on Twitter.
Logan, this is the change that I'm most excited about because you won't have to talk about it on the show anymore. I'm so excited. No, I'm kidding.
No, let's be honest.
No, well, that is there's a half truth there, I suppose. But no, for real, I've said it before, the excitement that you and Nate have shown for Marvel Snap is really infectious, and I love just I haven't played a single game of Marvel Snap, but just I've learned enough about it from you guys, and just seeing your excitement about it, and the way you talk about it is really cool to see that blossom. So yeah, having a whole show dedicated to it. I know Nate's excited, and this is I love the name Snapchat. I don't know who came up with that. Good stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah. Fun fact, that was actually Josh, the second part of Backlog Breakdown. He brought it up as a kind of joke, but then Nate brought it up to me. I'm like, I kind of love it. It's a double entendre. You know, you got Snapchat. Snapchat, we're talking. You got chatter, we're talking. It works. I like it.
Excellent.
So we're rolling with it. We're
rolling with Josh.
It. That reminds me, I need to come up with a logo for that this week at some point. Oh, well. Let me just roll with it. So anyway, lots of stuff going on with TRG. We're changing a lot of things up. We're starting some new shows. One of them is a Patreon exclusive one. The other one's going to be out on free feeds and things like that. But if you support us on Patreon at the $5 tier, you get literally everything because I'll be uploading the Snapchatter episodes into the Patreon feed. So you get those there as well, since it's under the TRG umbrella. So you get that. So a lot of exciting things coming in TRG. We're in February. We've got all this content lined up. We're ready to rock and roll, man. So we're ready to go. It's going to be an awesome year of TRG. I was telling some friends I'm either going to burn myself out by trying to do all this content, or this might just be the biggest year for TRG yet. We'll wait and see.
I'm super excited.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So good time. So again, dear listeners, Snapchatter next week, extra stuff, Patreon, go over there and check it out. Without further ado, let's get into what we've been playing, man, because I have been itching to talk about one game in particular. But start us off with some of these other games, man, and we'll get to Dead Space here in a little bit.
Yeah, actually, this is going to mess up the flow a little bit because of another new segment that we're going to toss in here in just a little bit. We have both, of course, been playing Dead Space, and we'll get to that. But first, I want to round off a couple of games that the other games I've been playing. To continue sort of my Game Pass journey, I mentioned Somerville last episode, how I just started it. I finished that game. It is developed by a developer named Jump Ship, which is helmed by former Playdead creatives who made Limbo and Inside.
Oh, okay.
It feels a lot like those two games in a lot of ways, as far as just the structure and the way puzzles are pieced together and things like that. Unfortunately, I should say the atmosphere and things of that nature are all really great and rival those two games. But unfortunately, the controls and some of the execution falls a little bit flatter than those games. I had a couple of times where I was just doing the classic. I was fighting the controls, like, let me do this thing. Oh no, okay, and it's just you never want to be there. So a little bit of that going on. A couple of I borderline had to look up the puzzle solutions. Like, what am I missing here? And I think I'm pretty good at puzzle games. But a couple of them, there was like, what? It just seemed kind of obtuse. So that didn't hit me well. But
I was even going to add in, kind of given your and I both our past with survival horror games. I mean, we're no strangers to puzzles. That's all the early Resident Evil games are. So for you to even be like, some of these are kind of obtuse, it's like, man, that's saying something, because some of the early Resident Evil games, their puzzles were kind of bonkers.
Some of it. Well, there was one puzzle. I was like, okay, what am I missing here? And it wasn't even a puzzle. I just had to walk down this path. I just wasn't even seeing. It was something like that. It's like, there's a path right here. Like, okay, It was really some dumb stuff like that. And maybe that was on me. But I didn't love it. I would say this is and this is going to sound bad. I don't subscribe to the video game kind of 7 is average. This is a 6 out of 10 to me.
Okay.
And that's, like I said, that's going to sound bad, but it's not as bad as the way our brains have been, processed to think a 7 is average. It had some good things about it, and it had some frustrating things about it.
Yeah.
It has it's sort of like this mix of 2D and 3D environments where most of the time it's 2D, but sometimes you get into these more open 3D environments. Okay. And another sort of odd thing, it's just sort of weird, is that it just has you're usually walking from right to left. 2-dimensionally, and that's just weird. Like Mario, you walk from right to left, or excuse me, from left to right, and you're almost always walking from right to left, which is just kind of an odd. It just feels wrong. I don't know. It's something weird about that. You can't
so you're going in the opposite direction,
right?
Of what you normally do.
During the 2D segments, you're walking from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen.
Okay,
and that just kind of feels weird to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It feels weird hearing you talk about it. That I've like got it in my head.
Right. So that kind of was. I don't know. I don't want to get hung up on it because it's really not a problem, but it was it's kind of just like felt off. Anyway, so Somerville was an overall disappointment. I was really looking forward to it when it was first revealed at one of those E3s.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was just kind of ho-hum. Next game I played, much better, Trek to Yomi. I started and finished that. This is it's kind of similar as far as the camera angle and the 2D mixed with 3D that Somerville has going on. But this is, sort of an action combat, black and white, like feudal Japan style, like, Ghost of Tsushima era kind of game where it's got some cool cinematic touches in the cutscenes, and the combat the combat got some knocks from what I heard of being kind of basic and straightforward. I found it a little bit better than what I was led to believe. But I get where it can be button mashy. Not button mashy. You can do the same move over and over again, basically. If you want to.
That sounds perfect to me.
There's other cool moves that you can experiment with, and I kind of did that, and the combat felt pretty good. But I get where some of those complaints arise from. I enjoyed this game though. Quick thing though, Logan, what's your feeling on subtitles in video games? Do you turn on subtitles or no?
It's funny because I used to really just abhor them. Like I would never have them on, but I can't remember what game it was where I'm like, I have to have subtitles on because I literally cannot. I think it was The Witcher 3. Like I cannot understand what some of these characters are saying. And ever since then, I'm like, okay, let me just turn subtitles on for everything. Because now it's like you see these memes online where like people will be watching something and if subtitles aren't on, they can't understand it. I'm almost that exact same way now, and it's ruined me. So I'm all for them.
I've always had them on because it's just sort of like an extra layer because sometimes with so much going on in video games, maybe I'll hear it or I'll read it or something, and it's just I may do one or the other. I kind of will be paying attention to one, or I don't know. So I just like to have them on all the time just in case I miss something, or like, what was that person's name? Oh, I see how it's spelled there. Okay, got it. That sort of thing. But anyway, I had the subtitles on for this game, and it's in Japanese, and it was one of those things where it was like I need to turn the English voiceover on. I can't, like, the subtitles aren't enough. I need to hear what they're saying because it's too distracting. I need to watch the stuff.
Okay.
And you watch the game instead of read the subtitles. And so I turned the English voice acting on. And oh my goodness, it was horrendous. I've never heard. It was like, Hiroki, look behind you. It's like UK accent. I was like, oh no, we're going back to Japanese VO. I can't do this.
So now that you've said that, I'm pretty sure this is on my Xbox from Game Pass. I'm gonna boot this up sometime soon just to hear that. I love hearing some bad voice acting.
So it started with the whole like, okay, I'm going to turn on English VO so I don't have to worry about subtitles. And I was like, oh, this is garbage.
This was a bad idea.
Actually turn the Japanese voiceover back on and hit subtitles.
That's awesome.
It was hilarious. I got my wife Emily. I was like, hey, you got to like just listen to this for a second. She was like, wow, that's pretty bad.
It's pretty amazing.
So anyway, shout out to Trek to Yomi's terrible English VO. Everything else about the game is good.
I've got to check this game out.
Finally, let's talk about Dead Space.
Yes,
Dead Space. Electronic Arts, of course, published this game, and I gotta say, hats off to EA Motive, really the developer. But I don't know, whatever they did, they didn't mess it up, they didn't interfere. Do more of this, Electronic Arts, please. I know it's a remake, but
it is a heck of a remake.
This game, in my opinion, has it's up there with the likes of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 2 Remake, which if you've heard us for any time, we hold those games in very high regard around here. 7 Remake is sort of its own beast. It's almost weird to even call it a remake, but I digress. Dead Space, let me talk about the sound design first.
Please
because
do.
I think it sets a new bar in sound design in video games, period. I'm playing on PlayStation 5, and I am using the 3D Pulse PlayStation headset, the official one.
Me too. Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it's simply, I can't believe how good it sounds. The doors audio, opening, man. The elevators, clink, 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 clink. All of course, the monsters, I forget the name of the what are they called?
The necromorphs.
Necromorphs, thank you. They're always in like the tunnels and the ventilation ducts and stuff like that. Man. So you always hear them around you or above you, and they can pop out at any point. And with it being a remake, you don't necessarily know where those points are going to be, and so it's like experiencing it all over again. And the ship. Oh, the Ishimura, like I'm talking just sound design.
Yeah.
It groans and it makes these sounds that like, I don't think I remember from the original one.
Nope.
There was one big sort of hall room. It may be in like the tram section, but you're on the floorboard of the tram early in the game, like the subway section, but you're on the floorboard of it. And it's almost like some outside force hit the ship. And it was like, and it's like, what was that?
Yeah.
And like, you're looking around and it's like, okay, just the ship. I'm good.
Yep.
Oh, Logan.
It keeps you on edge, man.
Mm-hmm. It's, I can't get over the sound design. Every little thing about it. Let me lead into the fact that Isaac Clarke, the protagonist, now has more dialogue lines. He has more VO lines than he had in the original. That was like a red flag for me, but that's really well done. The story stuff and the story isn't different. They're just the script, I should say, the dialogue. They have some new things there, some rewritten things.
Yeah, reworked a little bit for the remake.
Some of the audio logs, of course, it's original. It's like they're it's maybe the same lines, but they're redoing some of it.
Yeah.
All that's really well done. The way Isaac interacts with his peers and that he comes onto the Ishimura with. Is all great and really well voice acted and doesn't, the whole silent protagonist thing is like, well, I love a silent protagonist. It doesn't detract from that. I don't think.
Not at all. Yeah.
So that's a plus as far as the sound goes. It is very faithful to the source material, but it also, and I don't know how spoiler I want to be here, but it takes some liberties, I'll just say. And there are touchstones in the game that it takes, and it's like we're gonna tweak this a little bit, and it's really stinking good. It's not in a Final Fantasy VII remake kind of way, but it's just enough. It's kind of like the way, this is sort of a weird analogy, but it's in the zeitgeist right now. It's kind of the way HBO is handling the Last of Us TV show, and I don't want to get into necessarily like the last episode, but like they're doing just enough to make it differentiate from the game.
Right.
And Dead Space Remake is doing just enough to differentiate it from the old one. It's like, oh wait, I don't remember this. I don't remember going here back in. There's more zero gravity sections in the game and things of this nature. And that's one of the coolest features of the game.
It's so
cool. I'll actually, Logan, I'm going back to the show doc. Let's bump the new segment to the end of or after what you've been playing, just so we can transition to keep talking about Dead Space. Maybe we won't do that every episode, but for now, I want to hear your thoughts on Dead Space.
Dude, let me tell you. So those of you that have listened to the show a long time know that last October, I played through the original Dead Space again. And I talked about it on the show. I was like, oh my gosh, the sound design, this game still holds up in a lot of really cool ways. And so going into this, I'm like, man, Callisto Protocol burned me. Please let this be good. Please don't mess this up. Dude, from the moment I booted this up and it starts off the exact same way as the original, I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm going to breathe a sigh of relief. This should be good. And just seeing how it looks, the lighting, the sound, just moving the character, how it opens the exact same way where you land on the Ishimura, sort of. And you go check out the kind of like check-in reception area, and you're like, what's going on here? Where's everybody at? And things just start going crazy, and it opens the exact same way as the original does. But man, it looks so good. Like this is the way that this game looks is how probably a lot of us remember the original Dead Space looking.
Yeah.
But even better. And like Micah, like what you were saying, in the sound design, I noted that when we talked about on the podcast, the original game had just some insane sound design. This game ramps it up to 11. They understood the assignment, man, and they nailed it. There's parts where I'm playing through this game and I'm like, this is giving me major Alien vibes, which is one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies of all time. And just the way that it looks, the lighting, Isaac, the way he talks, some of the stuff. I don't want to get too spoilery stuff. I'm just going to say, like, because I'm only in chapter 4, so I don't want to go beyond that. But man, I'm thoroughly impressed. I was telling my wife, I'm like, this is the Resident Evil 2 remake treatment for Dead Space. This is so faithful to the original. And I told some people in the group, like, who asked, should I go play the original so I can appreciate this? I was like, at this point, just play the remake. I don't see a reason to go back and play the original, because this is the original game, just way better looking, way better sounding, and the controls are better. Specifically, something you brought up, the 0G segments. Oh my gosh, the thruster thing that you get and you're moving around, you can reorient yourself with the shoulder buttons. Oh my gosh, dude, that makes those sections so much more fun. You're floating around, right? You're using the thrusters to move around to avoid the necromorphs that are diving at you and trying to attack you. I'm like, this is fun. This makes these sections so cool. I love it.
It was a point of high stress in the old game, and it still is, but it was stressful in the old games because it was kind of unwieldy, but this, you feel much more in control and much more you just feel cooler. I don't know, just with that, like you said, the shoulder buttons kind of, you can reorient yourself. It's the 0G sections.
It's good.
I haven't even beaten the game yet. I'm maybe about 4 or 5 chapters left to go.
Okay.
I'm just so impressed.
Good.
I really can't believe it. It's put, I don't hold Resident Evil 4 in as high a regard as Resident Evil 2, but this game is putting RE4 Remake on notice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, you better come out swinging, because this guy over here is like chef's kiss good. Like, I don't know. Like, I had high regard for Dead Space in general, and this is making it soar. Like, when I was playing it, I was like, man, this is so much like the original, and it speaks to the game design of the original and how it stood the test of time. The stasis, just pull. That's not a crazy new mechanic, but pulling stuff to you and kind of tossing it back out. All the different guns, man. The line gun. Shout out to the line gun, best gun in the game. So fun. Just the basic plasma cutter, turning it vertical or horizontal is just such a cool mechanic, so that you can cut the limbs off. Just a great basic mechanic. That is the basic mechanic, is the plasma cutter cutting limbs off. And it still works so wonderfully. So
and something I wanted to ask you about, because I don't remember. Granted, the last time I played this game in October was like, I did a plasma cutter only run, so I didn't use any of the other weapons.
Okay.
Did the flamethrower have that flame wall thing in the original? Because I don't remember that.
I don't remember, and I'll be honest, I've yet to even use that flame wall.
Oh, dude.
I haven't even done it because I don't like using like whole like canisters, like to use that much ammo. So I usually lay off of the R1 moves, because that uses like a whole clip, so to speak.
Okay.
At least I think it does for most weapons. So I usually just do the basic R2 move.
Okay.
Which probably to my own detriment that I'm not doing that more. But no, I haven't, to answer your question.
Okay, fair enough. Because I tried it out. I was like, I don't remember the flame wall thing, and I launched it out, and like it just destroyed those little like creepy crawly ones that try to jump on you and attack you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a neat trick. I like that. I'll keep using it. But nah, dude, I'm really pleasantly surprised by this game at how good it is. I even bought the deluxe like upgrade thing after the fact, to get the new suits, and I cycled through all of them. I'm like, these all look stinking cool. Like,
man, I saw that and I was tempted. I might do it because I'm enjoying it so much. I might shell out the $10 for it.
There's one I had to laugh a little bit. It made me think of Predator. Kind of like how, maybe not Predator is the right one, but just how like the hunter will typically like take parts of the animals that they're hunting and then like put that in their armor somehow. Isaac does that with one of the outfits. Like you have a necromorph like claws like as the crown thing on his head. I'm like, okay, that's really morbid, but it kind of fits and it's kind of funny and I like it. So
all right.
It's got some cool ones. There's one that's like it's like styled after like some kind of security team, and it just looks really just intimidating and cool. It's and of course you have the classic one from the original. So I mean, it's really good. You can just tell that this game has gotten a lot of love and attention to detail put into it, and I really appreciate it. So shout out to Motive for knocking this one out of the park. Special shout out, just because some people were getting kind of, I don't know if antsy is the right word, but just getting a little, flustered on Twitter. For those of you that don't know, this game implemented a feature where you can toggle it on to where if you're about to encounter a pretty intense or scary segment, it'll give you a notification in the top right corner that says, hey, you're about to encounter this section, just be aware. And if you want to take it a step further, you can enable this other toggle where it kind of like blurs it out with this kind of like hazy effect where it's still there, but you don't really see it in detail. And so you can kind of play through the game and avoid some of that stuff, or at least get some of it blocked off a little bit. Of course, when you're fighting the necromorphs, you're still going to see their limbs getting popped off and using those and blood and gore and all that. But you can tone it down a little bit. And I quote tweeted them because I'm like, this is a cool thing. I don't use it, but I love that that's a feature. I love it when developers do this. It goes back to when Coalition was doing it with Gears of War. They would allow you to disable the cussing and the gore. And I'm like, perfect. That's what I want to do. So just allows people to kind of play the game the way they want. But I guess some people were like, well, why would you take the horror out of Dead Space? It's like, did you read what it even does? Like, anyway, it's cool how you can customize it. The cussing, I didn't see any toggles for cussing or stuff, but just to let our listeners know, I think they'd be interested in that you can avoid some of the more heavy sections where, certain things happen, but you can kind of blur it out. You don't got to see it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So wanted to highlight that. That being said, though, hello and welcome to the Persona 5 Royal Hour of the podcast. I really don't have much to say about this, really, just to give an update. I'm about 65 hours into the game now, which is kind of like, I was going into the recording tonight and I'm like, how did I put 65 hours into this game in the last 2 weeks? Like what, how? Okay. It doesn't seem like I've put that much time into it because it's just kind of clipped along so quickly. Still good. Still, I'm following a guide to try and get the 100% platinum. I messed up a couple times and was worried that I wouldn't be able to get caught up, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm really only behind on one character. I think I'm okay. So it's still really good. Encountered some more new story content stuff, and I'm like, this is really good. I like it. Awesome. I like the new characters. This is really cool. So still having a good time with it. I think I picked the right time to kind of go back through and play the game. Now that I'm so far removed from the main game, it's like now I get to enjoy it all again, kind of brand new. And there's still some things that are coming up. I'm like, wait, how does this go in the original game? Did they change it for this? I don't remember. It's still fun though. It's really, really good. And so I will say this though, the those that are familiar with the game, the Okumura boss fight, where you have to fight like waves of his minions and you have to take them out like in that same turn. Terrible boss fight. Hated it. So glad I'm past it though. Thankful for the Royal Edition giving you these super OP personas, because then I could just burn through it. Of course, I didn't remember that I had those or had access to them until like the fourth time I was trying the boss fight. But
oh, tears.
It is what it is. But yeah, Persona 5 Royal, still going strong, still enjoying it. Hopefully we'll have it finished by the next time we record. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, because I might get sucked into more Dead Space or Hogwarts Legacy. It's a crazy time to be a gamer.
For real.
But speaking of it being a crazy time to be a gamer, some of these games we're talking about, we can't really look. We know a lot of our listeners are dads. Some of them are moms, right? You have kids. You can't really play some of these games in front of them, right? So Micah, let's introduce this new section. May not be every episode per se, but one that we definitely want to be more intentional about including.
Yeah, exactly. We're gotta come up with a name for this segment or something. I don't know, but basically, this is what are Micah's kids playing? And this is like Logan said, we got a lot of parents in the dear listeners, and just different ways that we can interact with our kids in gaming and kind of shepherd them through I like to steer my kids. I guess what I'm trying to say is I like to steer my kids towards quality games, and you can definitely help with that sort of stuff. But anyway, I want to shout out some of basically these are games that like I don't like put them in front of me. These are games that my kids are just picking and they're enjoying. And I wanted to shout them out and kind of give like a 3-star or like a 3 thumbs up kind of system, or like all 3 kids love it kind of thing. So 3 thumbs up or something like that.
I was like 3 thumbs up. Micah, do you have another arm that we're
no thumbs up from each, because I have 3 kids. So I have a 12-year-old daughter, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son. So those are my kids. And the first game that we'll get into is Forza Horizon 5, which gets 2.5 out of 3 thumbs up because 2 of my kids are way into it, and the other one is just kind of into it. Both of my girls, the 2 older ones, are way into Forza Horizon 5, and it's so funny seeing how they both interact with the game differently. If there's like a marker on the map, my 9-year-old will follow the racing track just perfect. It gives you that little racing line to follow, and she goes to her destination.
That's how I play it.
and my 12-year-old will just like, there's the destination, straight line. Let me cut through the cornfields and go off the ramps and like run through fences.
Like, I don't got time for this.
So it's hilarious watching how they both interact with it differently. And like there again, my younger daughter will like, it's like a living world where like she'll go to a house and it's like, oh, this is my house, and here's the table outside, and here's where I live, and like you can't go in the houses or anything like that. It's not that kind of game, but she treats it like this make-believe world. So they awesome. Both enjoy Forza Horizon. My son gets into it a little bit. And then lastly, real quick, Stardew Valley. They got into this game.
Such a good one.
Also via Game Pass. I don't know if it's on Game Pass anymore, but that's where they originally discovered it. And really all the kids love this, but particularly my two youngest, my 7-year-old son and my 9-year-old daughter. They both love kind of, again, just living in that world. And, right now my son, I was asking him about it, and he's saying he's trying to make friends in Stardew Valley. And so I was like, well, how do you make friends? And he's like, well, you got to give them gifts, and they have star levels and stuff. And so I was like, okay, so maybe, my son is like, gift giving is his love language. I don't know. But yeah, they're definitely into Stardew Valley right now. So yeah, Forza Horizon 5, Stardew Valley, that's what my kids are playing. 2.5 out of 3 stars for both games, because 2.5 of my kids are into them.
Just out of curiosity, I did double check. Obviously Forza Horizon 5 is on Game Pass. It's one of Xbox's first party exclusives. Stardew Valley is also on there for both PC and console. So interested in that, deal. It's there for you. You can dive in and check it out. Those are really good picks. Those games are so good. I need to get back to Forza Horizon 5 at some point. Maybe at the end of the year when I'm done playing everything this year.
Yeah, I love watching them play that.
Anyway, dear listeners, let's get into. Now, we used to do the news on TRG. We used to call it, was it Newsy News Roundup?
Newsy News or something like that.
Newsy News or something, yeah. Probably won't bring just that name back because it sounds a little weird. But Micah, you're our resident news guy, man. Let's kick things off. Let's get back into the news here on TRG, man. Let's start us off because this has been a crazy last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's hard to be, when it comes to the podcast form, I used to do the Dear Listeners Newsroom, which was like a weekly YouTube news show where every Friday I would hit it, kind of, in rhythm, and I'd get my news all by Thursday, get it cranked out for Friday. And it was a pretty succinct model. Doing it in podcast form, it's going to be a little tougher to be timely with the news, but I'm going to try to hit the topics that will kind of resonate for longer periods of time. And so the first one, it happened about a week ago as of time of recording, but we can't overlook the very first Xbox Developer Direct, which Microsoft held again last Wednesday as of when we're recording. And they had a handful of games that they said beforehand. They're like, hey, we're looking at these 4 games. We're looking at Forza Motorsport. We're looking at Redfall. We're looking at Minecraft. And we're looking at ESO, Elder Scrolls Online. And so we got to the show and they're like, oh, no. We got actually 5 games we're talking about. And so we got to lead with this story because this game has absolutely taken over. And of course, we're talking about Hi-Fi Rush from Tango Gameworks, which was shadow dropped on the day of release, or on the day of the direct. So that night, several hours later, you could go download the entire game on Game Pass. Of course, you can go purchase it separately if you don't have Game Pass. But this is not a free-to-play game. This is not a, well, like I'm not sure how long it is. I don't want to say it's small, but it's not tiny or anything. It's a full-fledged real game that they just straight up shadow dropped. No one knew about it. I think maybe there was a slight leak, maybe 12 hours or less beforehand or something like that. But it really was a secret until the very end. It's this kind of cell shaded, stylized rhythm action game, and it's not like anything Tango Gameworks has ever produced, and it's sitting at like a 90 Metacritic score right now, or I should say OpenCritic. We use OpenCritic around here,
right? Because of the Fantasy Critic League.
And so. I guess, Logan, I'll toss it to you. Have you had a chance to try Hi-Fi Rush?
No, love the surprise of it, because when I saw the trailer, like I heard some rumblings about it on Twitter, and I looked it up, I was like, this game looks really cool. Like, I just love the art style, the seeming seamless transition between like cutscene and actual gameplay. Like, saw some of that floating around. Gene Park of Washington Post was sharing that, and I was like, man, this looks cool. I haven't had a chance to play it though, just because between Persona 5 Royal and Dead Space, it's like, I don't have time to get into it, but I really want to, because this game came out of nowhere, man. It's wild.
Yeah. Shout out to is it? Yeah, Jolt33. I think Justin is his name in the Dear Listener League. He picked it up in the league.
That's who picked it up.
And it's sitting at a 90 right now. It's got him 20 points. So yeah, shout out Jolt. This game looks absolutely killer. This is man. I'm glad this is kind of coming around. I'm glad I can say this. I want this to happen. This is the first time that I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a Xbox Series X or Series S, but I can't play this game. I have an Xbox One X, and so I'm like, okay, like I said, I'm glad we're getting to this point. I want to get to this point where we're only using PS5 and Series X and stuff like that. But I knew we would be kind of waiting in these cross-gen waters for a while, so I thought I could get by with the One X for a while. But this is the first game that's come across. I'm like, okay,
I see you, Xbox.
I'm thinking about a Series X now.
Yep.
So yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. Any other thoughts about that before we move on?
I mean, it looks good. Let's finish. Let's get to John's question now. John wrote in over on Patreon. He goes, how do you feel about stealth releases of games? Hi-Fi Rush, for example, seems to be a smash hit, but releasing something like this also suggests to me that they were unsure enough that they didn't really want to spend marketing dollars on it ahead of time. I kind of already said this at the top. I love stealth releases of games, especially games like this that turn out to be really good, just because to me, I can kind of see the point of like, maybe they didn't really want to spend marketing dollars on it ahead of time, because game companies tend to spend a little too much on marketing. Let's be honest. But this one, man, I think for something like this, like obviously you don't want to stealth drop something like Starfield, right? You want to build up the hype to it.
Sure.
Something like this, a little more kind of a low key kind of game, not just saying it's like low quality, but just dropping a game like this that is high quality. It's a surprise. It's fun to play. It's really good. There's an excitement to it, man. And when I was on Twitter over the weekend, I saw some stuff about Dead Space, but you know what I saw most people talking about on Twitter? Hi-Fi Rush. And I'm like, man, I think that says something about the game if people are talking about this over Dead Space. Maybe it's just people are just playing Dead Space and enjoying that more, and people are taking frequent breaks from Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know, but I love stealth releases, man. I wish we would get more of those for games like this, or even some indie type games. I think it'd be fun. I would love it if Silksong just all of a sudden showed up on all the storefronts, and it's like, hey, surprise, there it is.
Yeah.
But Micah, let me kick it over to you, man. What do you think?
I think it's easy to be really all pro shadow drop, because I mean, this has to be one of, if not the most successful shadow drops in video game history, right? Yeah. Like I know it's hard to remember some of them, and I'm sure the listeners will call us out if we're like, oh, you forgot about such and such. But
the only one I can really remember was that Entwine game that showed up at like an E3 or something that you could get,
which isn't even in the same conversation as this.
Yeah, it's not even the same caliber So
right. So they clearly knocked it out of the park. So it's
yeah,
easy to say like, yeah, shadow drops are all great. I think it has to be smart. I think Game Pass or the Xbox ecosystem and Game Pass especially benefits from things like that.
yep,
Because you always need content to feed Game Pass, and doing a shadow drop is just fun like this. So yeah, for these games that are lower budget, we'll say this probably wasn't a huge monetary investment
right,
on the side of Tango and Bethesda. So they're like, okay, well, if it flops, who cares? We didn't spend any marketing on it, so we saved some
right,
money there,
right.
and we'll just see, and maybe you'll be at a hit, and oh, look what it is, and who knows how much is moving the needle for Xbox, but it's selling well on Steam. I think I saw it did better than Forspoken, which had tons of marketing for it. I mean, absolute tons of marketing. So, it's a good juxtaposition and a good use case to look at something like Hi-Fi Rush compared to right next to Forspoken. And, that game has its own kind of
Yeah.
controversies or faux controversies, perhaps. But yeah, it's how can you say shadow drops aren't cool when Hi-Fi Rush is okay? So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, Logan,
Sure,
as far
sure,
as the
sure.
recos go. But one thing I love doing is going to the GG app. I
Shout
use
out.
the web app or the website or the mobile app. But you go to the trending games section, and I love it because it just gives you a snapshot of like what's in the zeitgeist right now.
Yeah.
And what's number one right now? Hi-Fi Rush. What's number two? Dead Space, just like you said, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
as cool and awesome as Dead Space is, we were talking about it, singing its praises. Hi-Fi Rush is sort of taking the video game world by storm right now.
Yeah,
And it's
man.
just super cool. I can't wait to get my turn with it.
That's cool. That's cool. So yeah. Let's just continue on, man. There's some other things that we saw. We got some more Redfall news, some more Forza Motorsport 7, man, looking stinking good.
Yeah,
Minecraft Legends. Let's
as
get
far
into it.
as as far as the rest of the developer direct, Redfall looked real good. I thought that had a solid showing. That's going to come out on May 2nd, 2023. They
Mm-hmm.
announced, so very good timing. I think there. I think that makes sense for Redfall. Forza Motorsport 7. Boy howdy, yeah, like gimme, this game looks
That's good.
great. All the new features they talked about are, it's kind of hard to get too excited about car games, but the stuff that they're showing looks fantastic. This, Logan, interestingly enough, did not get a date, simply 2023,
Yeah.
which I think threw some fans for a loop. But I think the bigger question to tie this to is, what does that mean for Starfield?
Yeah.
And when are we going to get that? I think that there's this thought that Redfall, Forza, and Starfield are all coming out in the first half of 2023, and then
Mm-hmm.
we got the second half as well to
Yeah.
kind of feast on. And I guess what I'm saying is Redfall, Forza, and Starfield might actually be it as far as like kind of the big tentpole titles for
Right.
Xbox. Not that they won't have other
Right.
things like Hi-Fi Rush or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 2023 for Forza. They said that they were going to have a separate Starfield event focused directly on that game at a later time. Don't know how early. I'm assuming it would be before E3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really have any thoughts about Minecraft Legends. I'm not a RTS
Yeah.
guy really, and ESO don't really have too much to say about that.
Yeah.
So I guess any final thoughts on Redfall or Forza, Logan?
Not really. I did read earlier today that apparently, and let me double check this just to make sure that I, don't get this wrong, but I could have swore I read somewhere that Redfall is going to require you to be always online, even if you're playing single player. I'm like, whoa, that's an interesting design choice. It's not one I would have gone with, but I I don't know, man. It's no, it's even right here. Several different websites, GameSpot, a few others. Yeah, it says if your internet connection goes down while playing Redfall, you won't be able to words are hard. You won't be able. You know what? I'll just say it this way: you won't be able to play the game on your own as you play through the hordes of vampires. Obviously, since we haven't really read that before going into it, I don't want to get much more into that. I'll just say this: I'll wait till the game comes out. They may change that. You never know. But it's something to just kind of to be aware of, that if you're looking forward to it and you more of a solo player, just make sure your internet connection is a little reliable if you plan on playing it. I think given the situation of kind of where we're at least here in the States, most gamers are online. So you're probably going to be okay with it, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind a little bit, getting closer to the release date. And again, that may change. You never know. But that's something I thought was worth bringing up. Forza Motorsport 7, the only thing I had to say is like game looked pretty. You know, I'm not a big fan of the sim racing version or sim racing side of Forza, but I'll still play it because, you know, Game Pass, and I'll give it a go. And same thoughts as well with my Minecraft Legends ESO. I tried to play ESO and never got into it. I just can't get into MMOs anymore. I don't have the time for them. And I'm not much of an RTS guy anymore.
Well, I guess last thought, Logan, what do you think of this overall format, like the Xbox Developer Direct? Is this something that they should keep doing moving forward, you think?
In my opinion, yeah. I liked going into, like, we're talking about these 4 games. Surprise, there's a 5th game. I'm like, I don't know. To me, like, I love the structure. You know, I love going in, like, you can expect these games. We're not getting your hopes up. Here's what we're talking about. Let's talk about the games. I loved it. It was direct. No pun intended. You know, but I like it. If they keep this format going forward, I'm all for it. You know, I know what I'm getting going into it, and I know what to expect. And, you know, who knows? They might surprise us every now and then. I'm definitely not going into any more of these expecting they're going to drop like a shadow drop a game every time. But
sure,
I just like the structure of like just the layout. You know,
definitely. Yeah, it was good stuff. I agree. Yeah, okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is this exclusive that IGN put out, and this really made waves when it hit. I feel like some of it's fizzling out now, but we'll get into it. Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony won't be part of E3 2023, says Kat Bailey exclusively over at IGN. As soon as this article hit, we had a couple of other sites like Video Games Chronicle. I think Jason Schreier came out with some words that kind of corroborating some things. And at first, that's a massive headline. E3 is finally coming back for the first time as a physical event in 4 years, and ReedPop is now behind it, the company that runs PAX. The ESA, the ESA, the Electronics Entertainment, whatever it is, I don't know. The ESA runs E3. They have been having problems ever since even the year before the pandemic, when Sony dropped out, and they're like, "Oh, now we're not going to do it." And then the pandemic didn't help anything, and then getting it back, they've really struggled. And E3 is in a weird spot, and so they got ReedPop to try to breathe new life into E3. And according to this report on IGN, they have an uphill battle because all 3 are going to be, you know, not in attendance. Now, here's where I'm going to go ahead and jump in and be like, this is almost a non-story the more I think about it, because Sony hasn't been to E3 in a while. Okay, so nothing new there. Xbox, they kind of are at E3. They just announced that they're going to do their normal presentation across the street at their own Microsoft Theater, which is going to coincide with E3 week like it usually does. So while they won't have a booth on the show floor, they're going to be part of that E3 zeitgeist and energy, I think, like usual. So that feels a little disingenuous. And then also Nintendo hasn't been part of, they've had a show floor, but they haven't had like a conference part of E3 in several years. They were in fact the first one to depart from E3 with their Nintendo Direct style. So the more I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe this isn't that big a deal, but how's it striking you, Logan? Is E3, is it better with the big 3 showing up?
I mean, again, and I was looking around on Twitter and seeing kind of what people's reactions. And man, E3, I think I've even said this on the show before. E3, there's no point to it anymore. You know, a lot of people a lot of these companies are doing direct stuff now. You can just go to YouTube, you know, go to Twitch, live stream this stuff, and just do it there. You can speak directly to your consumers. You don't really need to do E3. But there's something about E3 that's kind of, I've heard people in our community call it like the Super Bowl for gamers, right? You have this time where we come together, you see all the big announcements, we get excited, we're all talking together. You have friends, you know, those listeners that are in college will get their friends in like a dorm or something. They'll all watch it together, order a pizza, do all that. You know, so it's kind of one of those things that the relevance may not be as prominent as it used to be, but I don't know, man. It definitely feels like E3 is kind of fizzling out a little bit. You know, it, like you mentioned, before they had those delays and stuff, the postponements and things like that. Hey, we'll come back next year. Those sorts of things. Granted, understandably, you had some good reasons for that, but it's just I think they're gonna have a hard time getting things back up and running, especially now that we went through 2020 and everybody did everything online. It's like, oh, this is easier, probably cheaper. I don't know, man. I'm glad that you mentioned that about Xbox, because Xbox is still going to be there. It's just not going to have a giant sort of thing. But it definitely seems like it might be phasing out. You have this in the notes here, and I noticed the timing of Jeff Keighley's announcing the Summer Games Fest. I'm like, oh man, that's right on the heels of the announcement of this headline.
5 minutes after the IGN story went live, Jeff Keighley's like tweeting from the Summer Games Fest account, or maybe it was just his Twitter account. He's like, Summer Games Fest, June 8th, blah, blah, blah.
Man.
And it's like, so you mentioned the Super Bowl of video games. I think that is now the Game Awards, if I'm perfectly honest.
Really?
Wow. I do.
After last year, I can kind of agree with that. Last year was really good.
The Game Awards is as close as we can get, I think, these days to that traditional big Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo press conference that we love from the past, because it checks all the boxes. You have awesome game premieres. Yeah. You have cringe, like tons and tons of cringe. That's what I think a lot of people, including me and like my friends, miss. I grew up in that era where I was a bachelor when E3 first started being like televised on the internet or like on G4, Spike TV, or whatever the heck it was. Like, I was single. Man, I had like, it was all the Mountain Dew, all the Doritos, and we would laugh our butts off at Robbie Drums at the Nintendo conference or whatever the heck.
Yep.
And it was so cringy. And the Game Awards, it gives you a little bit of that still, I think. Like that off script, the fact that Christopher Judge spoke for 15 minutes on the mic, the fact that Al Pacino literally didn't know where he was.
And let's not forget, what is it? Reformed Rabbi Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Orthodox Reformed Rabbi.
Orthodox Reformed Rabbi Bill Clinton.
Like, you don't get those with a buttoned up Nintendo Direct, No. So that I think is what a lot of us are kind of missing when we see the death of E3. So I don't think I think the event has just moved. It's at the end of the year now. So we can kind of have that moment still. And companies like Microsoft can do their own thing and it still feel like a good summer showcase. So I do hope, real quick, and you can finish off with anything you want to say, I hope Sony has a freaking conference this year, man. Like, what are they doing? Like, they haven't had one since 2021. And it was when we saw Wolverine and Spider-Man 2. You remember that one?
I do remember that now.
That's the last big Sony showcase we've had.
You know what I would love for Sony to do is go back to the PlayStation Experience thing. I can't remember the last time they did one of those. It's been a long time. Just the thing where you can
You're not going to see that from this regime.
I know. A man can dream, though. A man can
those
dream.
were fun times. Those were arguably like, and they might go down in history as like some of PlayStation's best times, Sony. For real.
Yeah. But speaking of Sony, I wanted to kind of like, before we move on to our next news topic, is Alex Castellanos writes in and says, "Hey, Logan and Micah, after watching the Xbox Bethesda Direct this past week, my question is this: when do you think Sony and Nintendo will answer with their own Direct/State of Play? Other than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Spider-Man 2, we don't really know much about what each console manufacturer is doing this year. How long do you think we'll have to wait to find out? Thanks for reading. God bless." Alex, thank you for writing in. John Hannon, also thank you for writing in as well. Man, I don't know. I hope it's soon, though. Like I said before, when we were talking about the fantasy draft, I didn't draft Tears of the Kingdom at first because I'm like, we've only gotten like 2 glimpses of this game. I need to see more, man. And I hope it's really soon, especially with that game coming out in like, what was it, May or something?
Yeah, it's May.
It's got to be either this month or March, dude.
I think
for both of them.
I don't think that either one of them can wait to the E3 time.
No, definitely not.
Especially if they're going to hit that May date for Tears of the Kingdom, they've got to have a big blowout on Zelda or a big blowout in general.
Yeah.
So I think that will come here we just started February. So, I mean, yeah, probably like March, April, maybe. And I would say similar things for Sony too. Now, they're way less predictable these days.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, they keep saying, is coming out in the fall of 2023. So you've got to have some sort of, well, I'll say you would think that they would or pair a big showcase with something like, with that being the centerpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And show some more Pragmata or something, like where's the Metal Gear remake? Where's Final Fantasy IX remake that's supposedly happening? Where's Final Fantasy Tactics that's supposedly happening? There's a lot of things, Helldivers 2, a lot of things that are rumored that are like, okay, Sony, I know you got stuff. Like, we all know the rumors, but like, where is it? They let, Konami did their own thing and released the Silent Hill 2 or the Silent Hill 2 remake trailer and stuff like that. You would have thought that would have been at a Sony event. So it's kind of weird predicting what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, Alex. I would guess by June, like if we don't have something by E3 time, that they'll maybe have some sort of E3 like showcase. But and the jury's out on Sony. I can't predict it.
Yeah, I feel like if I were to predict Sony, I was like, maybe they're wanting to divert all their focus to PSVR 2, getting that launch later this month. And then maybe something like mid to late March, talk more about PSVR 2. Like, hey, we just launched PSVR 2. Here's some cool games you can look forward to. But while we're here, let's talk about Spider-Man 2. Let's see some more of that. Maybe they'll do that I feel like maybe the end of March, to be honest. Give PSVR 2 a full month to be out there and kind of be able to hype that up a little bit.
That's a good thought.
Pivot to Spider-Man 2.
So. That makes sense.
But we'll see if it happens. Lucky guess. Okay, don't be like, oh my gosh, Logan like knows things. Like, no, I'm just lucky guess. But yeah, it's got to be soon. They can't really wait till June, especially Nintendo. Nintendo's got to be doing something pretty soon. And maybe Nintendo, give me some Metroid Prime 4 news. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But Micah, let's get into this next topic here. That Halo's getting rebooted apparently.
Yeah, maybe? This one's coming from our old reliable Mr. Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. The headline is Microsoft Studio behind Halo faces a reboot on years of turmoil. And what he's saying is that kind of the high level beats are that the game is going to start using the Unreal Engine instead of their proprietary engine.
Okay.
And that because of the recent Microsoft layoffs, it hit 343 Studios pretty hard. Schreier is reporting at least 95 people at 343 were let go. And we have heard that is primarily from the single player side of the Halo team. So that means that any future, I think, single player plans have been put on ice.
Yeah.
And there's also rumors of this Project Tatanka, which is a new game mode that they're apparently kind of putting all their eggs into that basket. And this part I'm a little frustrated with because Schreier's reporting on that aspect like that is news. And Tatanka, codename Tatanka, has been around for literally almost a calendar year to this day. It was Jez Corden over at Windows Central that originally revealed that Tatanka was a battle royale mode. Now, what Schreier is reporting is that has since changed to not be battle royale, but maybe some other just new mode. But that will be kind of the next big thrust, apparently, from the Halo Infinite universe. And so I guess this story doesn't live in a silo. It lives in a world where Bonnie Ross recently left 343. It lives in a world where Halo Infinite was delayed a year, came out to good critical acclaim, but then it petered out on the live service content aspect. The community has, I think there's been a core there that has remained faithful and it still loves Halo, but the game is not tracking like Halo, the lead franchise for Xbox, should be doing. So I guess my question for you, Logan, is, and I know you've had some thoughts on social media about this, but I guess it's a multifold question. What should 343 do? what should Microsoft do with Halo? What's wrong with 343 right now? What's going on?
Well, before I answer that, let me include Dorian's Taylor, which again, Dorian, thank you for writing. And he writes in, I'm a longtime Xbox fan who has never been into Halo much. With that said, do you think Halo should be rebooted or should it be let go to focus on new IP like Hi-Fi Rush and other existing franchises? In other words, does Xbox really need Halo? After all, we live in a time where Call of Duty, Destiny, Fortnite, and Apex exist. Can Halo ever be the juggernaut it once was? At this point, and I've been openly critical about 343 on Twitter. I've been openly critical about a lot of things on Twitter lately. It's gotten a lot of people rowdy. So much so that I actually turned my Twitter off for a while. I'm going to take a break. But honestly, man, at this point, 343 has proven time and time again that they can't get the job done. Halo 4 came out. Cool story. Great way to continue it going. Multiplayer was meh. Halo 5 comes out. Story, totally misled what it was going to be. Didn't land. Multiplayer, though, really good. Then Halo Infinite comes out, and we're like, the campaign's pretty good. The multiplayer's a lot of fun. It released 2 weeks early. This is really good. And then as time went on, we're like, they are not communicating with us like they need to be. They are not supporting this game like they need to be. This is supposed to be a live service game. You got to update these things a lot faster because games like Valorant, Apex, and some of the others are making you look really bad right now. And then just the constant delays of like Forge, the cancellation of the local co-op stuff, people leaving. It's just like, what is going on over here? In my opinion, 343, if they're going to stick around, they need to be taken off Halo. Halo needs to go on ice for a couple of years at least, and just focus on other new stuff at this point. Because after 3 games, 343 still can't get it done. They were making tons of rookie mistakes with Halo Infinite, and I'm just like, it's like y'all never even made a Halo game before this. I think 343 needs to be taken off Halo, and it needs to be given to another studio, but we need some time away from the chief. I think we need to, this is going to sound weird. I think Microsoft needs to starve us of Halo, get us to a point where like, I kind of miss Halo. And right when we're starting to feel that, boom, here's Halo. We come back, and maybe do a battle royale. Maybe that's how Halo exists going forward. But I think to answer Dorian's question, can Halo ever be the juggernaut it once was? No. I really don't believe it can. There was something about Bungie when they were working on Halo that made it special. Every single thing that Bungie gave us that was Halo related was insanely good. Even the ODST game was so different than what we were typically used to, but it was still like, it had that Halo charm to it. It felt good to play. It was fascinating. It was interesting. It was really good to play. And I really think Halo Reach was the last good Halo game. I know some people will argue with me like, well, Infinite's not bad. And I don't disagree. Infinite's good. It's not as good as when Bungie was at the helm, though. I don't think, I used to get mad at Adam on here. He would be like, Halo's time has come and gone, and I would fight it. But now I really think, maybe Halo's time has come and gone. Maybe we just,
I remember.
I think it's time to let Halo go.
I remember the midnight release for Halo 2, and this is sort of an antiquated thing even at that point in time. But I remember, let me think about this. Yeah, I was living with my parents at the time, but I remember they had like the nightly news on, and it was like on the nightly news, like ABC or NBC or whatever it was. It was like, Halo, the new video game is watching, and it was like a little segment there, and it's like, man, Halo is huge.
Yeah. It's massive.
And, gaming in general has grown massively since then, just in numbers. So you could say Halo is bigger than ever because there are more fans than ever, but percentage-wise, ratio-wise, yeah, it's waned in recent years. Yeah. And I don't know what to do with 343 Studios. I don't know what to do with Halo. I don't think that it should have ever come out in that state, as in, not that state. I don't think it should have ever been a live service game. Yeah. I think whoever made that decision, maybe they've already been let go. We'll see. But that was not a wise decision. I don't know if that was 343 or that was Microsoft pushing that. Whoever made that decision is dumb. And that is not the spirit of Halo. And I understand that they nailed the spirit as far as the single player goes. But Halo's not a live service game. It's not about, you know, making your chief as pretty and crazy as all get out. You know, it's about arena style deathmatch, team deathmatch, King of the Hill, whatever. You know, and it's like, that's Halo. And if that isn't enough for 2023 audiences, fine, then the ship has sailed on Halo. But to morph into this other thing that's floundering and is getting hit heavily, the developer who's making it getting hit heavily by layoffs when it's your premier studio, it's not a good look. No. So something needs to happen there, whether it's a new steward for Halo, or like you said, it takes a long break. I think longer than 2 years, like 3, 4, 5, 6 years kind of thing.
I was going to say 5 to 10, to be honest.
Yeah. A long while. Like, give us a break. So it's, I don't want to end on such a depressing note with Halo. I still love Halo. I want it to be, you know, we say this because, you know, we talk about the Bungie ones and we just love where it came from. And we're just, we hate seeing it kind of flounder in this way. When we know what it could be. Any last thoughts before we move on, Logan?
I was going to say, every now and then I'll go on Twitch just to see kind of like what's the popular streaming game, or kind of like what's popular, like what's the most streamed, what has the most viewers. I had to scroll down a good ways just to find Halo Infinite. You know what's getting more viewership than Halo Infinite? Obviously, Marvel Snap, of course. But no, the new SpongeBob game is getting way more views than Halo Infinite. The new SpongeBob game. Come on, man. Come on. Grand Theft Auto, still up there. League of Legends, Valorant, World of Warcraft, Escape from Tarkov, Fortnite, all in the top row. Halo 5 needs to be up there, man. And the fact that it isn't, it's a shame, man. You know, I'm not saying that's indicative of it being a bad game, but I think that just kind of goes to show a little, gives you a glimpse of how this game just is not what it should be. It should be up there as some of the most viewed stuff on Twitch, even in YouTube. And it's just not, you know, it's not saying there isn't an audience. It's not saying there aren't people playing the game still, but it's just, it's not what it should be. And it's a shame, you know, so that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Logan, we won't, let me turn that volume down. Sorry. We won't belabor this next one too long. We'll just touch this one briefly because I want to get into the rest of these patron write-ins. But there was this is the last news item we'll hit. There was a new ad for PlayStation 5 that came out this past week. It's sort of this live action look at Spider-Man and Horizon and some of these other IPs and stuff. And it showed, you know, it kind of confirmed, you know, fall 2023 for Spider-Man, things like that. We're like, okay, I still see you're pounding that drum. And it's got a lot of clips from a lot of different games, you know, Ghost of Tsushima, Gran Turismo, God of War, all these things. But then there's this little snippet that's like 1 second long of this woman is showing her back, like a third-person action adventure game, over the shoulder. She's holding a torch in a cave and looking at something that very much looks like something out of Indiana Jones or Uncharted.
Yeah.
And if keen observers will notice that it does show up again in the trailer. The woman blows off dust off this little artifact, and then there's another shot of the woman really, really close up, I believe. And I don't want to get too much into spoilers of Uncharted 4, but fans of that series know how that game ends and what could be with Uncharted. Logan, do you think PlayStation is teasing a new Uncharted?
You know, it's funny. Shout out to Son of the Rain, friend of the show. They were talking about this back and forth. I think we got tagged in it. Like TRG's account got tagged in this thing from Chef Jai. Also, shout out to you, man. Like, oh man, watch this be Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 4 or gosh, Uncharted 5. There's so many games I can keep up. And I was like, no, y'all. Watch this be Last of Us Part 3, and they're like, "Don't, just stop." I don't know, man. I've got it pulled up here. I stopped it a couple times. Sorry if y'all were hearing the clicks from my mouse. When we were going through it, it could be. I'm of the mindset of like, I don't want to get my hopes up, right? I don't want to be like, is this going to be Uncharted? The new Uncharted? I think, what was it? Naughty Dog came out and said they're not working on a new Uncharted, but like another studio would handle that IP. It might be, man. It's definitely got a lot of people talking though, and it is kind of exciting to think we might get a new Uncharted soon, or within the next few years.
I wouldn't mind it. It corroborates, or it would go hand in hand with the now like 1.5, 2-year-old report that Jason Schreier put out about that kind of external studio working on Uncharted. I think he had the scoop originally quite some time ago now, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I think this is a tease for Uncharted. I think it's time. I think even if Naughty Dog doesn't do it, I think people are kind of like, yeah, give me. I think people are kind of like sick of The Last of Us a little bit. I know it's sort of like booming right now because of the show, but like in gaming terms, I think people wouldn't mind getting some Uncharted back again,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is a tease for that. And, whether it has the pedigree of a Naughty Dog game, if it's not developed by Naughty Dog, we'll see. But, if it's an Uncharted game, they're going to have, a huge push behind it. So I'd be excited to see what another team might do with it. So,
yeah, man, 100%. So, dear listeners, again, if you've seen that trailer, which, by the way, shout out to PlayStation for doing these fun ads again, man. We got that one with Ben Stiller and John Travolta around the time we got a War Ragnarok release. We got this one, and I'm like, this is like, I watched this like the day after it dropped. I'm like, this is actually a really cool ad. Like, this is exciting. This is fun. You had the Ratchet and Clank thing where the guy got turned into a plant. Like, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to PlayStation for kind of getting back to their roots a little bit and having these fun ads. I want to see more of these.
Yeah, so, good stuff.
Really, really good stuff. Speaking of really, really good stuff, let's kind of start winding down the show. As always, you can write into the show over on patreon.com/TheReformedGamers. We put a thread up for every episode, and you can write in your questions, comments, concerns over there. Don't even have to relate to the episode. Don't even have to relate to any of the new stuff. It could just be something random if you wanted to. Just go easy on us. But Joshua the Super Llama Johnson writes in and says, do you all have any recommendations for 3DS/Wii U digital-only games to buy before their eShops close in March? It's a good thing you got that right in now, because it's gonna be very, very close. And thank you for including the link to some of these. This link on Nintendo Life, that's 23 best Wii U eShop games you should get before they're gone forever. I'm looking through the list right now, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Some of these I don't recognize. Lone Survivor I recognize. It's kind of like a survival horror game that you can play on PlayStation 4, and it was okay. I don't think it's worth picking up. DuckTales, though. DuckTales Remastered? That's one. Micah, I'm going to look through this list and come up with some more, but what do you think, man?
I've got a couple written down. The ones that came to mind were, there's this game called The Swapper, which is a multi-platform game, but if you want to just put a good game on your Wii U, The Swapper is an excellent sci-fi puzzle platformer. I remember getting the platinum for this game, and I just remember liking it a whole lot. I don't remember that many details about it. It's been a while now, but The Swapper is an excellent game. And the other one I wrote down, and this is a mouthful, Bit Trip presents Runner 2 Future Legend of Rhythm Alien, is a fantastic rhythm-based runner. It's not an endless runner. I think it has levels, but it's like this rhythm-based, like duck, jump, dodge, kind of thing where you got to feel the rhythm and go through the level and all the obstacles. It's pretty shallow, but a lot of fun. I remember enjoying that game a lot. So yeah, Bit Trip presents Runner 2 is a good one for sure.
Right on. Well, the ones that I can think of immediately, I only had a Wii U for maybe 1.5 years, so I'm just thinking of some of the games that I played on and really remember enjoying. And I know they're relatively cheap on the Wii U eShop. If you try to get them now, it's like, if you try to get the physical versions, it's just insane because they're way overpriced. Obviously, I can't come into this and not recommend Metroid Prime Trilogy. I want to say it's like $20 or $30 on the eShop. You go to eBay and try and get a copy of it, you're going to be spending at least $130 on it just to get
good
that.
Call. Yeah.
Definitely pick that up, just because unless you really want to have a physical copy, you want that like steelbook, which I don't blame you. It's nice, but $130 is a lot. So definitely pick that up. They also did what was it? It was some kind of like Punch Out game. I can't remember if it was Super Punch Out That's another one that's around 20 to 30 bucks. Twilight Princess is always a good one to go with. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, because again, if you try to buy the physical, you're going to be spending a lot of money for it. Those are the ones that I would personally go for, is the ones that like the physical market for them is ridiculous, but you can get it dirt cheap on the eShop. I would go for those personally. As far as the 3DS, I'm more familiar with the Wii U one than I am 3DS. I'd have to definitely look into some of the 3DS ones, because the only ones I can think of are like Fire Emblem, Phoenix Wright, those sorts of games. I know there's more hidden gems on the 3DS eShop. So I'll just speak to the Wii U one. Definitely go for, oh my gosh. Even Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. I'll say this, it's not a good game, but for some reason you're gonna have to like pay an arm and a leg to get a physical copy of it. You might as well just get it just to have it on there. And I don't know, you might like it. Who knows? I think a friend of the show, former co-host Adam, really liked the game. If I remember correctly, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but I know there's several people in our community that liked it.
That feels right.
But we'll see. So yeah, again, hopefully that helped. I gave you some direction of what to look for. As always, though, you have access to that Discord only channel thing. Wait, Patron? Yeah, you have the access to the Patron only channel in the Discord. Feel free to drop that.
There you go.
In there as well, because I know a friend of the show, Josh Broccolo, can definitely give you a lot of recos, and Wesley Ray can as well.
Reach out to Wesley Ray. He can give you some 3DS recommendations for sure.
Absolutely. But now we've reached our final write-in. This comes in from Richard Marocchini. He says, I have now reached the age to where I have lived more years than years I realistically still have left to live. Okay. I feel blessed that I was born in the perfect time to see the evolution of my favorite form of entertainment, video games. With each new generation of consoles, I would say to myself that it cannot get any better than this, but it always does. Amazingly, future consoles will keep getting better. What are some of your expectations of how video games will keep on improving with future consoles? Micah, man, I'm immediately reminded of that PlayStation 9 commercial that came out years and years ago with the PS2, because we were talking about in the Discord recently of how like it just connects into your adrenal glands and like you feel and see everything. And I'm like, I hope that's not it, because that's terrifying. But man, what are some expectations you have of how games are going to improve with future consoles, man?
This is a hard question. This is a good question and a hard question. I read this one before the show, and I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I don't really know. I couldn't come up with a great answer. What I'm going to say is a couple of things. I hope that technology keeps pushing in the way, in so that it allows more people to play. Accessibility. You see things like the Dead Space thing, or I think Naughty Dog and some other Sony first party games are particularly been really good about their accessibility options. They're tossing into games. I hope that becomes more and more of a thing. That's always fantastic. The older I get, like Richard here, the more I no joke, Logan, I think about my hands and like them like just whittling away into old man hands to where like I can't really play. To where I get PlayStation Claw and I can't play games anymore. Not the way that I'd like to. Right. And I think like, well, what would that look like? What will that look like if I can't press square over and over again to keep Solid Snake from dying in the torture scene? Like for real, so I hope that these sort of accessibility trends keep continuing. I hope that technology also keeps pushing ways, and like I mentioned about the 3D audio for Dead Space. Mm-hmm. That stuff didn't exist on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 generation. You can argue like, well, there's some surround sound 7.1. Yeah, sure, if you had the setup, but like not like this. Not this easy, not this low barrier to entry to get a $99 pair of cans and you get this great sound. Things like that. I like those sorts of, gameplay is always king. But those that have listened to me and know me know that I'm a big audio visual guy. I like pretty graphics. I like nice sound, and technology is what pushes those oftentimes, and art direction, lots of things. But anyway, I hope that we just keep seeing new things of tech. That's why I like things like PlayStation VR, PlayStation VR 2, like all the tech that's in that. Like it really, I want to get it. even though the library isn't so great right now, like I want to get it just because I want to see what the tech is going to do to push things forward. I know it's a niche, market with VR, but I still want to see what's going on over there, So, things like the DualSense controller, like heck yeah, keep pushing those controllers forward and try new things out. So I don't know what the future holds for consoles, Richard, but I hope I can play them with my 85-year-old hands, and I hope technology still makes it cool. So yeah,
man. I gotta be honest. I'm sitting here listening, just kind of soaking it all up and thinking through some things, and really I'm just kind of left at a point where I'm like, we're doing some cool things with the controllers, right? We got the lights on there, we got the haptic feedback, and we've got the cool kind of rumble stuff with the DualSense controller. Can we get to a point where we bring smell-o-vision back? Can we get to a point where we're playing through The Last of Us and we smell what the spores smell like? Can we get to that point, please? Can we I'm kind of kidding with that. That would be kind of dope, actually. I feel like smell-o-vision was a little ahead of its time. I feel like if we did it right now, people would be way more into it than what it was back then when Nickelodeon was trying to pioneer it.
You play a game like Flower and your allergies just overcome you.
Dude, perfect. Yeah, you just sort of sneezing like crazy. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so immersed in this game. So good. It's so good. Oh man, I really smell like what it's like to be on the Ishimura. Oh, so good.
Blood and metal.
Just so good, man. Just so good. No, my thing is I'm a simple man. I'm kind of easy to please. Can we just get to a point where games are just all running at 60 frames per second? That's really all I want. If we do that, I'm fine with that, to be completely honest. I don't really care about, like, if you can make a game look stupid pretty, like really, really good, I'm cool with that, but I want the games to run at 60 frames per second. That's all I really want. I'm very low bar.
Yeah, man of simple taste.
That's really all I want. And maybe port Marvel Snap to PlayStation 5 so I can get the platinum trophy.
Oh wow, that would be something.
That would be impossible. But yeah, I don't really have much, to be honest. It's just as long as we get all the games running at 60 frames per second. No more games like Arkham. What was that game called? Gotham Knights, running at 30 frames. Let's get it to 60 at least, and then we'll be okay. That's all I really care for, to be honest. Wish I had more of an eloquent answer than that, besides a joke smell-o-vision answer and then 60 frames per second. But that's really all I got. I'm easy to please, man. I am easy to please. But as always, dear patrons, thank you again for writing in to this episode. If you support us over on patreon.com, you can get your write-in submitted for each episode. There's a thread that goes live each and every week. Well, not every week, but for each and every episode. So be sure to go over there and support us over there. Again, thank you all for writing in. And man, that brings us to almost the close of this episode. We can't let you go without some recos, some things that you got to check out. Micah, man, what should our dear listeners check out?
Yeah, I already alluded to it earlier. It's the GG app, of course. I just feel like we always sort of mention it offhand or whatever, but and Charles Watson, he's an OG TRG member. He got GG started really through the TRG kind of community. And I think even we just mentioned Wesley Ray. I think he was the first subscriber to GG, or the first person that like logged in. I think I want to say I need to ask him that.
Yeah.
Charles could tell you, but shout out to Charles Watson. GG. It's a you can just get the website or download the app. It's like Letterboxd for video games. You can log your, what are you playing? What do you want to play? You can make lists. You can rank things, review games, check out what your friends are into. And like the thing I like to use is pop over to those trending top 100 games and see that P3 Portable is more popular than P4 Golden right now. So that's interesting, like people are wanting to check out P3 because maybe that's a gap in their Persona backlog. So that's cool. You can see Fire Emblem Engage number 3 right now. Like that's awesome. right there between Dead Space and Hogwarts Legacy. So just video games are in a great spot, and GG lets you really sort it out and make some sense of it. So yeah.
Yep. It's good stuff, man. It is good stuff. I got to be honest. I'm not surprised more people are playing or more interested or into checking out Persona 3 right now, because not a lot of people got to play the game. Persona 4 Golden was the one that kind of made everything mainstream, and Persona 5 really just ramped it up. So it's like, yeah, let's go back. Even I'm the same way. I only played an hour Persona 3 on the Vita, and I'm like, I don't really remember it. So
yeah.
But yeah, as far as my recos go, I've got a couple for you. One is take a break from social media, because that's what I'm doing. I already deleted the Twitter app off my phone. I'm like, I'm done. Apparently I can't share my opinion on here without people trying to argue with me over certain things. Granted, I probably should have known better. Don't bring up Calvinism on Twitter. That tends to get people antsy or rowdy a little bit. So understandable. Yeah, I'm taking a break from Twitter, man. I might not even activate my account, reactivate it, because I'm like, I don't need it. But yeah, take a break from social media if it's getting to you too much. Do what I do. The other thing I'm going to recommend is a book for you to check out, because I know a lot of our listeners are into books as well. If y'all have not read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson yet, you need to. It's different than what he normally writes, but it's quirky. It's funny. I've laughed so many times reading this book. There's a section where like the person telling the story was going through and trying to name all the characters, and he's like, you know what? These other characters don't matter, so now I'm going to refer to all the characters that don't matter as just Doug. And that's what I'm going to do throughout the rest of the book. And I'm like, dude, okay, whatever. This is awesome. So Tress of the Emerald Sea, it's a short read. It's goofy. It's funny. It's quirky. And plus, if you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson, I'm sure you'll love it. Something else I'm sure that you'll love is this podcast. Hopefully, I hope you love it. If you love it enough to where you want the extra content that we talked about at the beginning of the show, early uncut access to all of our episodes, extra spoiler cast podcast, which I'm sure in February we'll probably cover Dead Space, the TRG discuss stuff that cover random topics. Support us over on Patreon. Support us all. Our month goes a long way in helping us continue what we get to do here on the show, so go check that out. But maybe you can't support us financially. Totally understand that. We're in a bit of a recession here. Groceries are insanely high right now. There's other ways you can support us, just by liking this video on YouTube, subscribing to the YouTube channel, sharing the video with your friends, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, all the stuff. Links will be in your show notes. Join the Discord. We have a lot of fun over there, especially if you're getting into Marvel Snap. Just want to highlight that one more time. Snapchatter does release next week. It's going to be awesome. Each episode is going to be around 30 minutes long, or that's what we're aiming for. Just to, keep it as long as a match of Marvel Snap goes, sort of. You get the idea. But yeah, with that being said, dear listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of The Reformed Gamers. And until next time, be a dear, keep it locked here. We'll see you in the next episode.